Well, economists say they were hoping for an Irish coffee budget and instead described it kind of more like a flat white. This was EY's Joe Masters explaining that it's not really going to deliver the much-needed boost to productivity and innovation. I had a little bit of a different take. I'd say it was definitely no decaf, as symbolically displayed by the former Foreign Minister Julie Bishop, who was much more disco, I thought. And who could miss Josh Frydenberg's adorable daughter, also in sequins for the night. But aside from all of that, here's a few things that voters had to say about the federal budget.
Oh, I'm not going to be bought.
Why should Australians be bought?
For you?
I'd like to say I care.
Okay.
I'd have to look at all of the facts, I think, before I made a decision around election time. Yeah. Money's always good, but you have to look at it on balance about all of the factors.
Awesome.
Well, I haven't seen many details or heard many details, but I think the move to spread cash around all the electorate, it's a vote winner.
Okay.
One assumes it will be a vote winner.
Whether that's a sustainable thing and enough to make an impact from people that are struggling day to day. So I'd say it's questionable.
And kudos to the guy who said he didn't really know much about it yet. I think 1.89 million Australians watched Married at First Sight last night against the 751,000 that decided the federal budget speech by Josh Frydenberg was worth a look. So that might say the state of things right now. Joining us for Taking Stock tonight is Greg Baxter, partner at Newgate Communications, and Glen James from My Millennial Money. Perfect people to speak to about the budget. Thank you so much, guys.
Hello.
I want to start with you, Greg. What's your take on some of the kind of images, the messaging, the way it's kind of all been digested today from a communications perspective? Because you're the crisis management guy too. Have we got a crisis? This government got a crisis on its hands?
Absolutely. Right. It has a crisis. And the crisis is that, Labor says this is 6 weeks of a con job, and the government's saying, please forgive us for the last 6 years, right? So that's the first problem. The trust deficit is enormous, right? The back in black thing, I think, was unfortunate. A wider shade of pale, perhaps closer.
Yeah.
So I think and today they had a huge problem with the messaging.
Yeah, this was the video today, by the way. This whole black and white thing kept going.
Yeah,
back in black.
But this thing about refitting New Start with the energy assistance package. If that was such a great idea today, obviously it was a great idea yesterday and last week. I mean, it just seemed to me like on the one day that you're likely to get some clear air, they had a problem.
And they said, they decided kind of after the budget last night that was a good idea.
Well, because it was pointed out to them that either Labor was going to try and move an amendment in relation to it, but they were going to have an issue straight away. Yeah.
So in kind of a messaging sense, what does that say to people? Basically, 6 years of chaos was kind of...
It was clumsy.
Still there.
It's clumsy. And interestingly, watching your Vox Pops...
Yeah.
And listening to a lot of people on Talkback today, that it was a very similar split of opinion around, is it buying votes? Is it going to make any difference? Is it sustainable, etc.? I mean, so I'm not sure that... I think it's clearly going to be attractive to a lot of people, but enough to change a vote? Not sure. Yeah,
I think there's this extra level of scepticism because we know they've just kind of called the budget early so that they can have this election and, it's all electioneering. I mean, it always is, really, but there's just kind of extra level of scepticism, I think.
And a lot of people have been asking me what I think about it. Yeah. And I don't know if it matters what anyone thinks because it might not mean anything in 6 weeks' time anyway.
That's right.
So,
can't do it in 6 weeks.
I don't think the parliamentary calendar, they will be sitting, until, maybe next financial year. To actually get anything passed. So I think it's a suck it and see. I was actually down there last night in the Parliament and I don't know if the TV cameras kept going, but at the end, Josh Frydenberg, he went along and it was a hug to every one of the front benches. Like it was he was the the star player and all the coaches on the side were giving him the hug. So that was quite amusing and and Julie Bishop probably stole the show anyway.
Yes. Oh, yeah, should we mention that?
Again.
I mean, you don't want to, I mean, you know, we can have some serious discussions about the budget, but stuff like Julie Bishop turning up in this, I mean, what was said to be a $2,000 sequin dress, which was met with online anything from complete hostility to say, you're not going to move New Start, but you want to wear a $2,000 dress, to other people saying, well, she's on her way out and that's her statement and good on her. Any thoughts?
Another distraction.
Yeah.
You know, just another distraction from the message. Yep. And look, I've got a lot of time for Julie Bishop, and but the fact that that's getting the attention that it's getting, and a bit like the New Start thing today, it's just it's diluting what is an incredibly critically important message.
Especially as, you know, just in terms of these tangents that people like to go off with these things, because that dress was apparently also worn the same night, so last night, by the former Miss World Australia, Erin Holland. She was on some kind of VIP carpet. They were both out in the same dress, and that was a big article that I read today.
The parliamentary declared interest, does she have to declare that she may have been given that dress?
Why did I do all this research on the budget?
But that's the point, isn't it?
Well,
so much other stuff. People are so sceptical. There's Julie Bishop, there's the dress.
And I think it goes back to the viewership of Married at First Sight. Like,
exactly.
Says it all.
I mean, does that say it all, really?
Well, I don't know. I reckon they were lucky to get the 700,000.
Good point. I think the imagery was kind of all over the place on that front. Is it worth mentioning any of the elements of the budget?
I think,
or all hot air, as you said.
Yeah, I don't know. The infrastructure stuff, I think that should be hygiene in any government budget, and I think it should be bipartisan, because we do need to build the country. And we were talking before we jumped off on here about the regional centres. We need to get the population inland. The tax bracket stuff, I mean, 2024, it's probably not going to see the light of day anyway.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I don't know. It was interesting, though. I caught up with Bridget, the Minister of Sports, after the event, and one thing she said was they're putting a lot of money in regional centres, in sports fields, with putting female change rooms in. And I thought that was... I thought it was kind of cool.
Stuff you don't hear.
Yeah, and I mean...
So there's some good stuff potentially going to happen.
Small things are sweet, but yeah, there was just a couple of little peripheral things.
Again, some nice things that play out well in marginal seats in an election, that type of thing.
I think it's probably as good a budget as they could have come up with under the circumstances, and arguably 6 weeks out from an election or 5 weeks out. The temptation would have been to have thrown more money at it, and I think it's a good thing that they didn't do that. But, you know, Dennis Shanahan in The Australian said it's full of contradictions. It's economically responsible with tons of giveaways. You know, so, and I think that the key issue now is whether you believe the Ford estimates or the 10-year forecast, and I don't think anyone does, or not, doesn't matter. It's, can this shift the electorate from where it is now, which, you know, if what we're seeing materialises, then the government will be swept away.
Interesting story we picked up on today, guys. We mentioned this one in our news. Younger women amongst the fastest growing segment of homeowners. So we talk about, you know, the gap between the sexes. Home ownership is apparently an interesting one. Single female applicants outnumbering single men in 2 of the last 3 years. It does seem like women are seeing property as a way towards independence.
Yeah.
Because you deal with a lot of the millennial money.
Well, it's amazing.
People who are interested.
About 63% of my listeners to the podcast are females that are about age 25.
Yep.
So I'm not surprised to see that, because young women are engaged, and not necessarily engaged to be married, but engaged with their personal finances. And for me, I see it like when sometimes someone says when a young woman dates someone that's a lot older than them, it's because, the maturity level's the same. I don't know if the women are getting out there, they're empowered, and I say go for it. It's a really good stat to see.
There's some financial savviness that can be taken away from that.
Well, I think that, and that generation, the generation we're talking about, I mean, they're better educated, they're better paid, they're more empowered. There's certainly...
and we're all getting married later, right? So it's quite savvy to say, I don't need to wait for that. But determined to be financially independent. Determined, good point.
And willing to take on the responsibility and be accountable for the debt.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all terrific signs, I think.
And possibly in this generation, a partner doesn't mean financial security anymore. It might be a partner to do life with, and we need to be independent independently strong in our own right, which I think is a good goal for
There's
anybody.
another interesting one of a wedding couple who'd had the wedding. The friend gave them this one's doing the round on the internet, right? So the friend gives them $200 cash and a candle, which I might say when you add up the cost was apparently a $75 candle. Bride, quite unhappy with that, thought it was totally inappropriate, not enough, because, and the point of this whole story was, basically, do you have to cover the cost of being at a wedding through the gift? Now, when you Google wedding gift etiquette, like the whole internet is full of articles like this. It's a very difficult area. Relationships can be ruined. Greg? Because you got daughters.
I do.
If I'm not mistaken. So
yes.
You may hit this issue sometime soon, right?
The woman who's...
Do you want people at the wedding, you know, in the guest, should they be covering the cost of your wedding?
No. I mean, it's outrageous. You know, spend less and have more fun.
Yeah.
Right? This is not about the invitations or the menu or any of that stuff. Even, you know, the place cards.
Oh yeah.
The things that colonise people's brain space.
And they have brain explosions when they organise a wedding.
And a big occasion, and yet it's hijacked by all this crap.
Yes.
Yeah. This woman who's upset about I mean, she's an emotional age of 12.
Yes, I completely agree.
I'd be giving you another couple of $100 and then saying, see you later.
But it's a bit like that. And I wish we had Chris Kohler here for this, because he just had the wedding, so he could have been quite insightful on what goes on. But, you know, you start to look at some of the etiquette. Some couples say just put the cash direct in the account these days. Like, I mean, I thought, no, that's ridiculous. I'm not giving someone cash in their account. Like, there's all sorts of stuff that goes on with these wedding gifts.
It's obscene.
Yeah,
it's obscene.
If I'm invited to a wedding, for me, the wishing well and the cash is the last option for me. Because
I would
like
I know
to
I'm
be
very old-fashioned.
creative. Like last Christmas, I purchased everybody I know almost premium quality ice cream scoops, and they were like $20 each.
Fun.
But everybody loved them.
That's good.
And so I'm more creative with my gift giving anyway. But I just think that lady, she needs to check herself before she wrecks herself any further.
Do you use that line on the podcast? I like
Sometimes,
that one.
yeah.
I like that one. Yeah. Look, it's a difficult area, and you might navigate that one day.
Well, but it'll be no presents.
No presents. I agree, especially for the destination wedding. Surely no presents at the destination wedding. No? Oh gosh, there's a whole list of this stuff.
Like, if you are watching and you are planning on getting married,
yes.
Listen to Uncle Glen. You pick 3 things that you want to hero at your wedding, and don't worry about the little things that add up in value. And then you might not have a $50,000 bill, which you might not have to have strings on gifts from guests.
Pick 3 things you want to hero. Love it.
We've just got to get away from it being a status symbol.
I know, it's completely out of control. Greg Baxter, Glen James, thank you, tackling all things big and small tonight. Thank you so much. And poor Chris Kohler didn't get to even weigh in on that one. He'll be back tomorrow.